I came into flying old aeroplanes in the kind of mid-90s and started with flying Cubs and the Harvard and things of that nature. I bought my first warbird, which was a Beech Staggerwing. And the Staggerwing is a wonderful wartime aeroplane. And I started displaying that aircraft in the year 2000. And I, over the years, diminished the classic car collection and increased the aircraft collection. So the Hangar 11 collection comprises P51D Mustang with very considerable wartime history in Italy in 1944-5. Then we're very fortunate to buy the world's only flying Mark 11 Spitfire, again with huge wartime history. She did about 45 missions with 16 Squadron RAF in enemy territory over Europe. Then the collection was supplemented by a P40 Kitty Hawk, which is a very rare aeroplane. I mean, it was the fighter of choice in the opening years of the war. And in fact, it was the inability of the Curtiss Aircraft Company to build more Kitty Hawks that led to the Mustang being born, because the RAF wanted to buy a lot of Kitty Hawks and they weren't available. So that's when in North American Aviation said, well, we'll make a new fighter, we'll make the Mustang. Then, after a 4-year restoration, the Mark IIB Hurricane, the world's only Mark II Hurricane, flying, joined the collection. Spitfires and Kitty Hawks and Hurricanes were never built to be flying 75 years afterwards. You know, they were wasting assets. They were designed, let's face it, to fight in a wartime environment, and then they would be scrapped, as many of them were. With this particular aeroplane, this came back after having been demobbed in 1947. You know, it fell into disrepair, as obviously many of them did. So the wood and fabric kind of rotted off, and you were left with the aluminium airframe and the engine, and then was the subject of a ground-up restoration over 4 years. In any restoration, we try to reuse everything original, and often we are forced to use things original because you can't get new parts. So Rolls-Royce, for instance, on the engines, you can't buy new cranks, new camshafts, all those kind of parts. You have to find new old stock. So everything you put in the engine is effectively 65, 70 years old. They're all very different aeroplanes. I mean, I know that they're all designed for a similar task, but they are all very different. The British fighters are very unstable. I mean, if you take your hands off, they will only fly in a straight line for seconds, and then they'll start falling off or going up and down. Whereas the Mustang was designed as a long-range fighter escort. It was designed for, you know, missions to Berlin, 8-hour missions, and so therefore it's a much more stable aeroplane, and so you can trim it in 3 axis and you can take your hands off and read a map. I mean, I recently flew this Hurricane all the way to southern Germany, which was, you know, 1,100 miles round trip, and that was hard work because it's a short-range fighter. The one that's closest to my heart has to be my Mustang. It is the most modern design, because you look at this aeroplane, which was designed in kind of 1933-34 as a biplane, whereas that Mustang was designed in kind of 43-44. So in terms of wartime technology, it's 100 years ahead. So it's more comfortable, it's faster, it's more stable. As an all-round aeroplane, the P51 is the best aeroplane. The key issue with the Hangar 11 collection is that we're not a museum, we are a flying collection. And I do consider myself a custodian of history. And so when you bring one of these wonderful old ladies back to life, I mean, I think that's a very special thing. And it's something which is, you know, we're handing forward for the generations. So originality is very important, and it's something that we pay a lot of attention to. We scour the world. If we're missing a part, a clock, you know, a map case or something similar, that's something which we make sure that we find the right part. Going forward, we want to continue flying these aeroplanes. We want to improve them, and the Spitfire is having an engine change, and then she's going to be painted. We would like to add to the collection to bring our Mark IX Spitfire, which went to Russia and crashed in 1945, bring that to life, and that will be, you know, a long-term project dependent on funding. So we're constantly restoring, maintaining, improving.